weird. Very weird. It's even weird for Tucson. And Tucson is the weird capital of the world.
For moviegoers, that was their introduction to Tucson on the big screen. The 1974 film Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore was shot throughout the Old Pueblo and helped Hollywood see that Tucson was more than just a location for westerns. In the 1970s, the Tucson Film Commission played a big role in selling Tucson to filmmakers.
We went to Hollywood and we pitched it, and we hit it real hard. It really took off, in the 70s and 80s.
Local filmmaker Mark Headley and the late Bob Shelton, who founded Old Tucson, formed the Tucson Film Commission and went to work attracting big films to the area. By the 1980s, Tucson was bustling with movie productions.
You felt like you were a part of Hollywood.
Phil Villarreal grew up in Tucson and is our KGUN 9 film critic.
You could kind of grow up and hope that you might be an extra in a movie at some point, or at least just see some of Tucson on screen.
High Corbett Field is one of those familiar places featured prominently in the movie Major League. Thousands of Tucsonans were extras in the stands for some of the spring training scenes.
People were paid, I believe, a hot dog and a Coke to sit in the stands, and they waited all hours to sit there and they can see them.
Right?
Yeah, and you can, it's almost impossible to meet someone who lived here at that time who doesn't know someone that was an extra in the stands at the beginning of the movie when they're in spring training.
Right. Many of the opposing players in those High Corbett scenes were actually U of A baseball players.
Nerds! Nerds. Nerds.
Nerds! One of the biggest movies of the 1980s filmed in Tucson almost wasn't. Revenge of the Nerds was turned down by the University of Arizona because it was thought to be too raunchy.
The Film Commission, Bob and I and a few others, really went to bat for the film crew. We went over the script, hilarious script, and they were turned down by a lot of universities that were nervous, but we convinced the University of Arizona this was, number one, a fun film to do, and number two, economic impact on Tucson.
The U of A gave the go-ahead, and an estimated $4 million was pumped into the Tucson economy. While the campus is easily recognizable to us, moviegoers from across the country had no idea Adams College was actually the University of Arizona.
The Free Amigos!
That was probably the biggest movie from the 80s filmed at Old Tucson, but major stars in there like Steve Martin, Martin Short, Chevy Chase, iconic, comedy western, and that's all Tucson.
While the majority of the Three Amigos was filmed around Old Tucson, they did use Sabino Canyon as a backdrop. But the movie that best showcased Tucson was the 1987 film Can't Buy Me Love.
They just wanted the uniqueness of Southern Arizona, and they certainly found it here.
Watching Can't Buy Me Love really is a time machine to go back to Tucson in the 1980s. You could just see the way things looked back then. So a lot of things are the same, still as they were in that movie. But yeah, it treats Tucson with respect, with dignity, and you get to see the sights. And basically, it's a movie about growing up in Tucson in the 80s.
That uniqueness included a trip to the Boneyard and scenes filmed inside a brand new Tucson mall. But the major backdrop was Tucson High School. A little secret about Cindy Mancini's house where Ronald Miller, played by Patrick Dempsey, cut her yard. It's not even a home. It's actually the Hill Farm Community Clubhouse. You can see for yourself, it's just off Fort Lowell near Craycroft. Unfortunately, the movie industry now bypasses Tucson for the tax credits of filming in New Mexico. But Mark Headley is still hopeful Hollywood will return to Tucson to film someday like they did in the 80s.
Somebody needs to knock on some doors in Hollywood and say, we're open for business.
Reminiscing about the movies of the 80s is a lot of fun. They are absolutely Arizona. Thank you so much.